Well, last evening we were talking about the connected man. And if you weren't here, you might want to get the tape or CD. Tonight we want to talk about the home run man. Let's say this out loud together. All of us, as believing men, are men of destiny. But I have to see that revelation and act upon that revelation in order for my destiny to come to pass. Now, I believe that. I believe that we are people of destiny. This evening I want to talk to you about the home run man. And of course we're talking about first, second, third base and then home plate. I liked what Pastor Sue said the other day, quoting from Norman Vincent Peale, that there are three necessary ingredients to success and prosperity: judgment, industry, and good health. Because if you lack judgment, you could be industrious and have good health, but you won't pull ahead. If you have judgment, but you don't have industry, if you're lazy, you won't pull ahead. Or you could have judgment and industry, but if you're not blessed with good health, you can't pull ahead. And I like that. I've always been a type person who liked formulas. Unfortunately, many of God's people have some of their bases covered, but not all of their bases covered. I like to extract principles from the lessons I learn in life. I'm always looking for principles because I'm convinced that principles are repeatable. You know, when I was selling cookware, maybe I had a good week, then maybe I had a bad week. I would try and learn from that. Now, what did I do different in the good week from the bad week? Because I was always geared that way, that if I could extract principles from success, then I could repeat success by repeating the principles. People often fail in the upward climb because they do not reduce to a formula the principles applied on those occasions when they are successful. People oftentimes know the facts, but they fail to extract the principles. And one of the earliest success formulas I ever discovered was in 1980. Sue and I learned this success formula when we met Dr. Paul Yonggi Cho. He pastors the largest church in the world. It was a very small conference in Honolulu, and he had a fourfold formula. The first was envision a clear-cut objective. And I like that because that relates to what we're going to share tonight. Envision a clear-cut objective. See, if you just say, well, you want to make a lot of money, that's like saying you want to lose a lot of weight. See, a goal, to be a goal, has to be measurable. And so it's got to be clear-cut. You have to be able to see clearly your objective. 2, have a burning desire. And to me that relates to what Peale was saying, Norman Vincent Peale, on industry. Because if we don't have a burning desire, whatever the goal is, to make X many dollars or lose so many pounds, if we don't have a burning desire, the reality is we won't do it. We'll talk about it, we'll think about it, but we won't do it. See, it's the burning desire that kicks the doing in. He said 3, pray for the assurance. There's a sense in which, and I like that too because that brings God in to my goal setting. And then 4, his fourth was speak the word. In other words, develop a positive confession toward your clear-cut objective. So we have to have a definite goal. We have to see, we have to envision the possession of that goal. We have to see our objective so vividly and so graphically we can feel it in our emotions. And we have to have a red-hot desire. I'm also right now developing a study course along these same lines. It's called The Successful Lifestyle Pattern. And the theme scripture from that study course is 2 Timothy 1:13. 2 Timothy 1:13, Paul writing, "What you have heard from me keep as the pattern of sound teaching with faith and love in Christ Jesus." So we're looking for a formula which can lead us to success and prosperity. We're looking for a pattern which can be repeated to bring us up to ever-increasing levels of success and prosperity. Success, I believe, can be reduced to a formula. And failure can also be reduced to a formula. So apply the one and avoid the other. Learn to think for yourself. I believe that's a key. You've got to learn how to think for yourself. Now, as I see it, there are 4 steps or bases for you to become a home run man. The first base is vision. you've got to see it. I mean, if you can't see it, you can't have it. First, you have to have a vision for success and prosperity. I'm talking to you tonight about the home run man. See, now is the time. It's the beginning of a year. It's January. We're in a men's conference. Now is the time to check your habits of thought and action, for these have brought you to where you are right now. Your habits of thought and your habits of action are what has brought you to where you are right now. The thoughts you think and the things you do now, though, will determine your future destination. Now, I realize that the culture denies this. See, I'm not out of it. I just choose to ignore certain things. The culture denies what I'm teaching right now. That your life tonight is the result of the thoughts you have been thinking and the actions you have been taking. So where you are right now is the result of what you've been thinking and doing and saying. Now, that could be good news, that could be bad news, or it could be mixed news. But the good news is that today, right now, you get to determine your future destination by the thoughts you think, by the actions you take, and by the words you speak. Do you see that? Now, if we keep thinking and doing and saying what we have been thinking and doing and saying, personally, I don't believe that you're going to have a right to complain 10 years hence if you're in the exact same circumstance you're in tonight. Because you heard this message and you chose to keep doing what you've been doing. But you know, human beings don't like to change. In fact, we don't even like to hear about change. In fact, we're offended by anybody that would suggest change.
That's right, man.
But I didn't come down here tonight on a Monday night to speak to the hoi polloi. I came down here tonight to talk to some aggressive guys. They want to move, they want to break out and move upward and onward. Well, why would we think that we could keep doing what we've been doing and all of a sudden make 50% more money? Why would we think we could keep thinking the same way, behaving the same way, speaking the same way, dressing the same way, and have the same attitude, and all of a sudden somebody out here in the world is going to pay us another 25 or 50%? They're just not going to do it. You know, the world, one thing the world is smart about is their money. And somebody might overpay on an occasion, but by and large, the world doesn't overpay. And so what the world's looking for is value. What the world's looking for is a return on their investment. And that's why in this ministry we teach people to produce. Because if you'll produce, then you'll pull ahead. And I don't know about you, but with the culture the way it is today, it's just not hard to shine.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, have you eaten in a restaurant lately? I mean, it's sad. Or been in any kind of a store, retail store. I mean, just trying to get some help. Or find somebody who can count change back. I mean, what I'm saying is the culture has so descended into a morass of mediocrity, it's not hard to shine.
That's right.
And if you're a believing man, then you doubly ought to shine, because you've got the power of God working in your life. So the thoughts you think and the things you do now will determine your future destination. Are you on the right course to get from where you are now to where you really want to be? See, that's what you have to ask. And I don't know of a better time than a men's conference in January to ask, am I on the right course to get where I want to get from where I am right now? And regardless of what you are or what you have been, you can still become what you want to be.
Amen.
You know, I specialize in this. I mean, I specialize in ministering to folks that have hit the wall. And sometimes I've had people tell me they came a year or two previous and they weren't ready for our ministry. They had to come to a point in their life where they were ready. And a lot of times people, see, until people perceive that they need to change, they don't want to hear about change. Well, I don't know about you, but I don't want to have to hit a wall before I'm willing to change. In fact, if I can change now and avoid hitting the wall, that's really what I want to do. I'm not the kind of person that needs to hit the wall and then say, oops, well, I guess I better change. Now, when you have a burning desire that drives you to action to reach your goal, you will find the means to gain the knowledge and get the experience that will give you the know-how. Let me say that again. When you have a burning desire that drives you to action to reach your goal, you will find the means to gain the knowledge and get the experience that will give you the know-how. You'll find a way. And if where you're working is not the vehicle, you'll find a different vehicle. You'll figure a way through to reach your goal if you have a burning desire. Now, first base is vision. You've got to see it. I remember when Sue and I were first married, you've heard me tell these stories, we had, next to nothing. We were living in seminary housing, and the rent was $84 a month. And our grocery budget was $10 a week. It didn't take too long for us to figure out we could not survive on the nutrition we could purchase for $10 a week. So we had a great big gigantic 50% increase. We went to $15 a week. But back in those days, I remember one evening, it was either a Friday or a Saturday evening, we were out in West Fort Worth, and we stopped at the Mercedes store. And they had the new cars in the showroom, but they had a really sharp, a red Mercedes SL parked out front. It wasn't new. It wouldn't have been open if it was new, but it was in really great condition. And I remember opening the door on that red SL convertible, and sitting my beloved bride in there. And she didn't want to do it. She said, "We don't have the money for this." I said, "I know it, but we don't have enough money to go see a movie, so we got to do something." And so I sat her down in that car. And for years after that, it was just in my heart that was something I'd want to do for her. I'd want to bless her with a red Mercedes convertible. And in 1995, I bought her a red Mercedes convertible and did a European delivery. We went the whole 9 yards on that. But my point is, if you can't see it, you'll never have it.
That's right.
See, if you've never tried on a pair of shoes with a leather sole, then how are you going to have an aspiration for that? You're going to keep buying plastic. If you've never sat in a car with leather seats, you don't know what you're missing. You don't even have a vision for. How can you have a vision for something you can't see? Now, somebody might say, well, I just don't think it's Christian to always be pushing and driving. And you know how I'd respond? To not push and to not drive is not only not Christian, it's not American. If we're Christian people, see, who says Christians should be losers? Who says Christians should just be satisfied? Isaiah 1:19 I gave you last night. If you're willing and obedient, God said through Isaiah, you'll eat the best of the land. See, so how did these preachers, because all of this negative stuff came from pulpits. You realize that? All of this negativity came from pulpits. Because you have people, you got a negative catch-22 going on where the deacon board will say to God, well, Lord, you keep them humble. Our preacher, you keep them humble, we'll keep them poor. And they have a poor man in the pulpit. Well, what's a poor man going to preach? The Jews have a whole different system for paying their ministers. It's very political. And when they vote for their boards, they always vote for the richest guys in the church. And when they hire a new rabbi, what they do, they go around the table, and the first year they pay that guy, until they really know they like him. They go around the table, and they get everybody's income. They average that of the board, and that's what they pay the rabbi the first year or two until they really know they like him. And even though they don't subscribe to the New Testament where Paul talked about double honor, they operate by that principle because once they settle on the rabbi and they say to themselves, yeah, we like this guy, this is our guy, then what they do on that year, they go around the table, they add up everybody's income, they average it, and they pay the rabbi twice that. And then here we are, Christian people, trying to figure out why Jews have all the money. Because their leadership is not sorry.
That's right.
See, if you have a sorry man in leadership, you're going to have a sorry message. And so when those deacon boards say, now, Lord, you keep them humble, we'll keep them poor, they don't realize, but they're sabotaging their own success. See, if you can't see it, you can't have it. Years ago, we were living in our second house, the house we bought when we were pioneering this ministry, and we were out of space. We were out of space. We were out of closet space. We had, I think we had 2 bathrooms for 3 bedrooms. No, we had 2 bathrooms for 4 bedrooms. They shouldn't allow houses to be built like that. And it was really 2.5 bath, but it was 4 bedrooms. So we were out looking. And what we would do is we would come to church, we would hold church, we'd go to lunch, and then we would drive around in our favorite neighborhoods and we'd look for open houses. That's what we would do. And I cannot say that we really totally understood the principle of what we were doing, but now in retrospect I see it. We were lifting up our eyes. Amen. And I remember there was a house for sale, brand new house over in Forest Hills, and in those days they wanted about twice the maximum of what we could have afforded. We shouldn't have even been looking at it, but you know, it was an open house. We weren't misrepresenting anything. It's an open house, so we went over there, looked at it, and the kids were so excited. They were little then, and I remember one took off one way and one took off another way, and they were staking out, this is my bedroom, this is my bathroom. And I didn't have the heart to tell them. And in fact, I might have thought it, but I would never have let it come out of my mouth. Forget about it. We can't afford this. But that's what I was thinking. And so Sue was out checking out the kitchen, as women will do, and the kids were checking out the bedrooms and the bathrooms, and they thought it was so cool that every bedroom had its own bathroom. And I had been in the house before, so I'm standing in the foyer waiting on them to get done and come back. And Sue came back first, and I said to her, I said, do you feel that? Do you sense that? She said, yeah, what is that? I said, that's the anointing of God. And standing in the foyer of that house, I felt the pleasure of God. And as I meditated on that and prayed about it and asked God about it, what I sensed was He was happy that even though I couldn't afford that house, that I was checking it out. See, God is not pleased, I don't think, when we are focusing on downsizing. That's a real cutesy term the world's using right now, a lot of God's people. No, I believe God is encouraged, God is happy, God is excited when we're lifting up our eyes. You know, He said to Abraham, He said, lift up your eyes to the north, the south, the east, the west, and all the land that you see, I will give you. But see, he had to see it before he could have it. How many of you have children? Let me see your hand if you have children. Well, would you be thrilled if they said, well, I'm going to drop out of high school and I'm going to work on a garbage truck route, and I want to buy a tote-the-note car, and I want to live in Section 8 housing, and I want to apply for food stamps, and that's my vision. Would you be happy? No. Oh, no. No. As a parent, you want your children to have goals. Amen. As a parent, you want your children to have dreams. Amen. As a parent, you want your children to have aspirations. Sometimes, you know, as a parent, their aspirations are just way out there, but you dare not throw any cold water on it. But it's a good thing as a parent that your children have dreams. Well, God is a father. God is our Father. So why would we think He's pleased when our vision, our goal, we're shooting for the ditch? No, He's not happy about that. But He is pleased when we lift up our eyes and we begin seeing greater possibilities. You heard me tell the story. In fact, I told the story last night about wealth transfer, the first wealth transfer we experienced. And it's so odd being in the ministry, but then also, you know, I do invest in the markets. But probably the bulk of our net worth has come from wealth transfers, which have come to us in real estate. And it's so odd because I don't work real estate, I don't play with it, I don't invest in real estate. But God has brought us some transfers, wealth transfers through real estate. And in 1991, the reason we were able to buy that house at about $150,000 below market was that banker had built that house for himself, and toward the end of construction, when he realized he was being transferred, he stopped. He stopped the work. And so it was weird. There were no knobs on the cabinets in the kitchen or the living room. The house backed up to water, and it was just ugly railroad ties. He had not done any landscaping. There was no fence. A house like that should have had a pool. There was no pool. There was no landscaping. There was no shrubs in the front yard. I mean, when he realized he was being transferred, he just stopped. And so when I saw it, I didn't see it for what it was. When I saw it for what it could be. Amen. And then also because we made a ridiculous offer and the bank came back $5,000 over ridiculous, which from what my realtor told me, we were buying at about $150,000 light. I thought, man, I could spend money all day long and never blow $150,000. And so we proceeded. We proceeded. Because we had just come through 3 years earlier building this place. I still knew a lot of people in the building business. And so we proceeded to finish it out. I mean, I put a redwood deck and real redwood, and I put a brick and a wrought iron fence around it, and I did the shrubs and, finished out the cabinets and put a pool in, beautiful pool with a spa and a fountain. And, I mean, it was just too cool when I got done with it. And so one morning after prayer, I used to love, at that house, sometimes I'd get done with prayer and I'd get a hot drink of some kind, go out there and sit in the back as the day was breaking. And I was out there one morning after we got that all finished, and God said to me, He said, "This is your gift. Most people see only what is. You have the ability to see what can be and carry it through to completion." It's a gift. When we move into phase 1, people will walk in and they'll be all awestruck. But what is even more amazing is, well, there's a phase 2. There's a phase 3. There's a vision for a world-class, state-of-the-art facility. 83 acres so far and 450,000 square feet.
Hallelujah.
Plus all the ball fields.
Yes.
It's a gift. Number one, and that first space is vision. See, you've got to see it. If you can't see it, you can't have it. Say it out loud. All of us, as believing men, are men of destiny. But I have to see that revelation and act upon that revelation in order for my destiny to come to pass. Now, the beautiful thing about goals is, because we're all individuals, American citizens, individuals in Christ, we set our own goals. Somebody may be in real estate and they have a certain kind of goal. Another guy may be in sales. They have a different kind of goal. Another guy may be in a corporate structure. He's got a different kind of goal. Somebody may want to do a business on the side, and another guy say, no, I absolutely don't want to do a business on the side. See, the beautiful thing about goals is you set your own goals. And if you're married, you get with your wife and get your minds together, and you begin setting goals together. Because if you get your wife on board, see, there won't be the foot dragging when the sacrifices come along. Because you can never reach a goal without sacrifice. Second base, focus. You've got to be single-minded. And probably a lot of people come to a faith church like this and they get to first base, but you know what? They never make it to second. Because the world is so full of distractions. After you develop a vision for success and prosperity, you will have to develop focus. I'm talking tonight about the home run man. All personal achievement starts with the mind of the individual. Success or failure is primarily the result of the attitude of the individual. One of the greatest hindrances to success and prosperity that I've witnessed is a lack of focus. People too often allow themselves to become distracted by others or by adverse circumstances or by hindrances to their dreams continually popping up. There it is. And probably, I've been in the ministry 30 years, pastoring here 20 years, this is probably the biggest stumbling block, is simply a lack of focus. People, tend to lack focus. And I never cease to be amazed at how people allow other people to pull them off course. You know, last night we showed a video, some of the history of the church, 20th anniversary. And it was interesting to see, for example, August of '87, we broke ground on this facility, and to see the folks there at the groundbreaking. And I don't think any of them are here, because people allow themselves to be distracted. They can see maybe where you're headed, or they can see where they're headed, but somehow they don't have what it takes to stay the course.
That's right.
And that's what it's about. It's about staying the course. And that's something that God has blessed me with. It's a gift. I'm able to see where I'm going and not allow things to hinder me and not allow things to distract me. And it might take me a year or two longer to get there than I had hoped or planned, but I'm going to get there.
Amen.
I might face some troubles. I might face some challenges. I might face some obstacles. It might take longer to raise money than I had thought or planned, and stuff may cost more than I had anticipated. I mean, there are speed bumps in the road. But I am single-minded. And I simply do not allow myself to be pulled off course, to be pulled out of my zone. That's what I do. I get in the zone. And when I'm in the zone, when I party, I party. If I'm going to go skiing, I'm going to go skiing. But you know, when I come back and I come back to work, I'm in the zone.
Amen.
And I do not allow myself to be pulled off course. And you know, if you allow yourself to be pulled off course, there'll be an emergency come along every 7 days. If you allow yourself to be pulled off course, if you allow people to pull you off course, there'll be somebody come along with a gripe or a qualm or a criticism. If you are able to be pulled off course, you will be pulled off course. In that matter of church attendance, I mean, if I'm just this way, if I lived in the Los Angeles area, there's no point in deciding where to go to church. I would go to Fred Price's church, and it wouldn't matter how far I had to drive. It wouldn't matter how inconvenient. I wouldn't care that it was in the inner city. I wouldn't care that it was dangerous. I wouldn't care, because I would have to do what I had to do for me. If I lived in Atlanta, there'd be no choice. I'd know exactly what I had to do. And you know what? I'd just be that selfish about it. I would do what was best for me. And I would do what was best for me to achieve what? My dreams and my ambitions and my goals. Yeah, but Mama, you know, donated an organ over here. Who cares about what Mama did? Yeah, but you know, our family has always been X, Y, Z. How is that going to help you pay the rent? I would be just, if I was not called, I would be just that selfish about it. I would find a place that what? Helped me get focused and stay focused. You know, we had twice a year we have picnics, all church picnics. And I heard, it was a cute story. One of the men in our church, and he's a brother, and he's been in the church a long time. And here a few years back, his wife was trying to get him to go to one of the picnics. Memorial Day picnic, Memorial Weekend picnic, Labor Weekend picnic, whatever it was, Labor Day weekend picnic. And this story came back to me around the horn. I thought it was kind of cute. Now, I'm not saying do this. I just thought the story was cute. So his wife's trying to get him to go. Let's go. Let's go to this picnic. Meet some people. You know what he told her? He said, I don't want to meet these people. He said, I don't know if they're going to be here next week. Now, I'm not saying do that. But I thought that was a cute little story. In other words, he was not coming to Cathedral of Praise for the fellowship. He was coming for what he got out of it. And to me, that's a part of being focused. People too often allow themselves to become distracted by others, or by adverse circumstances, or by hindrances to their dreams continually popping up. My father's in the faith. the mother of my faith, Pastor M.D. Beal in Detroit, Michigan. She's been gone a long time. Finest Jennings Dake was the first one to get a hold of me. Lester Summerall, Kenneth Hagin, Fred Price, Cho. If you go online and you type in these names, you will find pages and pages and pages on the web, and a lot of it is criticism. Criticism. But see, I've never allowed myself to be distracted because I knew what I was getting out of it. And why would I allow myself to be pulled off course by somebody criticizing something that they don't understand in the first place? I know what works because I've worked it. So all I'm interested in, somebody might say, well, this sounds real selfish. Selfish equals intelligent. If you don't do what's best for you, you're not very intelligent. Say it out loud. Selfish equals intelligent. Of course you should do what's best for you. If you don't do what's best for you, who's going to do what's best for you? So that's exactly the way I approach this stuff. I know what I get out of it. So I'm not interested. Somebody doesn't like one of my fathers in the faith. What does that matter to me? I know what I get out of it. See, the point is, I'm not going to allow myself to be pulled off course. I'm not going to allow myself to lose my focus because somebody over here has got a gripe. But I've come here tonight to tell you that you can direct your thoughts, you can control your emotions, and you can direct your destiny. You can keep your thoughts off of the things you should not want by keeping your thoughts on the things you should want. And thus you will begin to win yourself over to the winning side by affecting your subconscious mind through self-control and positive confession. Your subconscious mind has both known and unknown powers, and you must control these powers in order to win yourself over. This is the damnableness of pornography. When a man is into pornography, he's wasting his power. It is no different, pardon me, than whacking off. You're wasting your power. God gave you your imagination not to view stuff that you'll never have.
Amen.
And half of it's fake anyway. No, God gave you an imagination to employ in the pursuit of your dreams, visions, and goals.
That's right.
You know, he said to Abraham, lift up your eyes, look north, south, east, west, and all the land that you see I will give you. He didn't tell Abraham to go into town and look at all the prostitutes.
That's right.
Because, see, that would be a waste of his power.
That's right.
God gave you power. And too many men squander their power. Same thing with sexual immorality. I mean, of course, we're against sexual immorality because we're Christian people, but we're also against sexual immorality because it's a squandering of your power. And it's a squandering of your wealth. If you want to be wealthy, you can't be messing around because you're automatically going to give up half your wealth. Texas is a community property state, which means you mess around, you're going to lose half your net worth. Ain't nobody driving my S600 but me. Amen. I'm not giving it up. And see, every minute of every day, some guy is over here at the topless joint on 157. Those are minutes that he could have been working, he could have been producing, he could have been generating, but he is squandering his power.
That's right. Amen.
Or every minute he wastes on the job chasing tail around the office, those are minutes, those are opportunities lost forever. See what that is? That's a lack of focus. He didn't keep his eye on the prize. So the thoughts you think, the words you speak, the things you do, these are the ingredients which give direction to your life. And to give your life positive direction takes self-control and positive confession. And so there's no way around it. See, focus. Focus is the second base. This is, in my opinion, the number one thing where people falter. They get to the first base, they maybe see it in a faith ministry like this, but they lose focus. And they allow themselves to be pulled off course. They allow themselves to be pulled off course by a short skirt. They allow themselves to be pulled off course by some friend. Friends are highly overrated. They allow themselves to be pulled off course by a relative. Relatives are more overrated than friends. And they allow themselves to be distracted. They allow themselves to be pulled off course. And the result is they don't ever get to the prize. They don't ever, and maybe they do achieve some level of success, but they don't get as far in life as they could have gotten. You have the ability to engage in suggesting to yourself your own possibilities by the thoughts you think, by the words you speak. And when you repeat these thoughts and you respond to them with action again and again and again, you establish a habit, you establish a pattern. And by directing your thoughts, you can build and control the habits you wish to acquire and substitute new and better habits for the old. You see, I believe whatever you can conceive in your mind and believe, you can achieve. But you can't do it automatically. I mean, if doing what Bill Gates has done, if doing what Steve Jobs has done, if doing what Michael Dell has done were easy, everybody would have done it. It took some focus. And not only that, I'm sure it wasn't all encouraging. I'm sure there were times that were discouraging. It's not a matter of starting, it's a matter of following through. Focus means that you discipline your mind to stay on target no matter what distractions may pop up. When trouble comes, you don't get discouraged or distracted. You simply say to yourself, all trouble is opportunity and work clothes. So I'm not going to be dissuaded. I'm not going to be pulled off course. You know, Pete Rose is back in the news, and I'm not really for or against Pete Rose, but I will say that when I was in high school, he was entertaining to watch. He played for the Big Red Machine when Sue and I were in high school. And the most entertaining thing, Johnny Bench would be there behind home plate, and there were 3 or 4 of those guys that were all-stars. But the most amazing thing was, Pete Rose, when he came around third base, he was headed into home plate, and how that the opposing catchers would think they were going to keep him away from home plate. But the rules say in baseball that the baseline belongs to the runner. And I don't know how many times, either in person down there in the Cincinnati Stadium or watching on television, I saw Pete Rose dislocate a catcher's shoulder, break an arm, break a leg. It was astounding. He would go through them like a freight train would go through butter. It was highly entertaining. And to me, I always saw, when I've thought of persistence, I've always thought of that. I've always thought of Pete Rose coming around third base headed into home plate. Not going to be pulled off course. Not going to be dissuaded. And certainly not going to go around somebody that's in the way.
Right. That's right.
See, the most dangerous place to be is between me and my goal, because I'm coming through.
Amen.
Somebody might say, well, that's not kind. It's what it takes. Because if you allow yourself to be distracted, you're going to have a distraction a day to pull you off of your course. So keep in mind that you are subject also to your environment. Therefore, select the environment that will best develop you toward your desired objective. This is the big thing Christians don't get. You are subject to your environment. So select the environment that will best develop you toward your desired objective. You are a product of your environment. So choose the environment that will best develop you toward your objective. Analyze your life in terms of its environment. Are the things around you helping you toward your success, or are they holding you back? If you're single, you ought to ask this question: is this girlfriend helping me or holding me back? If you're married, don't ask that about your wife. We'll talk about that in a minute. It's too late. But what about your friends? Are these friends helping me on my way, or are these friends holding me back? Nobody goes to drink by themselves.
That's right.
They go to the bar after work together. They go in a group. People don't do drugs by themselves. See? So are your friends, are they propelling you toward your goal? Are they creating the right environment? And if they're not, then I would suggest you need some different friends. See, you may be here tonight and you can't make any more money till you change your friends. If you wanted to learn how to play golf, you don't find somebody worse than you to play with, you find somebody better than you to play with. If you want to learn how to play tennis, you don't find somebody worse than you to play with, you find somebody better than you to play with. Why is it people always try and find loser friends? What's a loser, Pastor? Somebody who's not going anywhere. See, I may not be going where I'm going as fast as I want to, but I'm going. I may not be setting the kind of records I want to set, but I'm on my way. I'm making progress toward my goals, and I will not be pulled off course. I will not be dissuaded. So I need to surround myself with people of like mind. In the end, your environment will control you. Therefore, make sure that you control your environment. In the end, your environment will control you. Therefore, you make sure you control your environment. Avoid situations, acquaintances, and associates who tend to hold you back. If they hold you back, you have to avoid them. There are places where I cannot take an automobile to be serviced because I know I'm going to get in strife. Because they're going to call me and tell me my car's done when it's not done. Or they're going to pull some other kind of shenanigans on me, and I don't want to get in strife because that's a distraction. So I don't go there. Now somebody might say, yeah, but you're cutting them off. Absolutely. Because I don't want to get in a negative situation. Do you understand? There are places where I might like the food, but the service is no good. And I don't want to be distracted. I don't want to be angry. I don't want to get in strife. I don't want to get in any kind of a problem. So I have to avoid those places. People, there are people. And if you don't want an earful of negativity, then you can't communicate with them. Now we regulate, we have certain days where we communicate with the negative. They're called holidays. And so we gear ourselves, you know what I'm saying? We bolt our minds, we fortify ourselves, and we just go through and we do it. But that doesn't mean we got to talk to Mama every day. Or, the mother-in-law or the sister-in-law or whoever it is that's a challenge. We don't have to do that every day. A husband or wife is the greatest environmental influence for any man or woman, so make every effort to constantly sow into your spouse the kind of information and attitude you want coming out of your spouse. See, if you want to pull ahead, if you want more, if you want to make more money, you got to invest in your spouse. If you're married, you got to invest in your wife. I mean, how is she supposed to be the encourager? How is she supposed to egg you on to performance? How is she supposed to rock your world if you treat her like a maid? Or if you treat her like a whore. Or if you treat her like she's nothing but, the mother of your children and that's it. I've always treated my wife as my partner, as my equal. I was flying first class from St. Louis to London one night with T.L. Osborne, and the plane, lifts off, and it was TWA, which I wasn't used to, and it was different, 767, which I hate, and planes lifting off, and T.L. Osborne leans over and he says, isn't it wonderful to know that if this plane went down, your ministry would just keep right on going because you have such a wonderful wife who could take over? I said, Dr. T.L., this is not encouraging. But I knew he was funning with me. But what I'm saying is, I don't hear a discouraging word at home because I've invested in my wife. I've treated her as a partner. And so that's the kind of feedback I get. See, there's no greater environment for you than your wife. So first base, vision, you've got to see it. Second base, focus, you've got to be single-minded. Say it again out loud. All of us as believing men are men of destiny. But I have to see that revelation and act upon that revelation in order for my destiny to come to pass. Third base is tenacity. You've got to be persistent. Even after you develop a vision for success and prosperity, and even after you do achieve a sustained level of focus in your life, tenacity will be required because it won't all be smooth sailing. I'm talking tonight about the home run man. I gave two scriptures yesterday morning I want to read tonight. Philippians 3:13 and 14. Philippians 3:13, brothers, I do not consider myself yet to have taken hold of it, but one thing I do, forgetting what is behind and straining toward what is ahead, I press on toward the goal to win the prize for which God has called me heavenward in Christ Jesus. Now, if it was not going to require tenacity, why would he say that he's forgetting what is behind and straining toward what is ahead? It's going to take some tenacity. It's not just all going to happen easily. There will be some setbacks. There will be some mistakes made. There will be some errors in judgment on our part. There will be some things we do that we will regret doing. There will be some hitches, glitches, mistakes, problems, speed bumps. Again, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it.
Amen.
To go on to the next level. To go on to the next level financially. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. They're not all doing it, which tells us it's not easy. It's going to take some tenacity. And then 1 Corinthians 9:24. 1 Corinthians 9:24, do you not know that in a race all the runners run, but only one gets the prize? Run in such a way as to get the prize. Everyone who goes into the games goes into strict training. They do it to get a crown that will not last, but we do it to get a crown that will last forever. Therefore, I do not run like a man running aimlessly. I do not fight like a man beating the air. And from my perspective, 30 years in the ministry, 20 years of pastoring, people do this. They run aimlessly. They run from church to church, and they run from job to job, and some of them run from woman to woman. And they're running around aimlessly. Then they wonder at 30 why they don't have any more than they had at 20. If you don't believe what I'm saying, just go spend the morning one day at Starbucks and count how many men in their 30s and 40s and 50s come in, they do not have a wedding ring on, and when they go out, they get in a cheap car. Now, how is that possible? How can you labor 20 years and not have anything? And if you follow them home, which I wouldn't recommend, but you know, they're living in apartments. They're living in apartments. Why? Because they're running aimlessly. From what? From church to church to church, and job to job to job, and woman to woman to woman. And they get to 30, they get to 40, they get to 50, and they have nothing. In the month of Money 2000, I showed the people how everybody in America could die a millionaire if they would simply take 10% of their earnings and set it aside in savings. Even a plumber. Anybody in America can die a millionaire. If they would start out and they would set aside 10% of their earnings consistently over their entire time working, everybody in America should die a millionaire. And yet, how come we have so many people and they have nothing? Now, I've been real polite so far. But if you're here tonight and you don't have a whole lot, you have a choice to make. You can get mad at me, or you can make up your mind. This makes sense, and I'm going to change course. Because really what has happened so far in your life today really doesn't matter. Because tomorrow the sun's going to come up afresh and anew, and the Bible says the mercies of God are new every morning. So really the only thing that matters is, what are you going to do now? I don't know how many people I have in this church, and when they came to us, they were flat busted, but they're not busted now. And they just gave God 3 years, 5 years, 6 years, 8 years, and they're what the world would call, they're certainly what the liberals in Washington would call wealthy. They just made up their mind that they were going to change course, they were going to change direction. And you know what happens? It doesn't happen overnight. We're not talking about magic. We're talking about faith. It doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen. Success is achieved only by those who try. Where there is nothing to lose by trying and a great deal to gain if successful, then you ought to try. As we are teaching in our new study course, the successful lifestyle pattern, the reason you don't do the right thing when you should is that you haven't established the right habits, the right patterns. And a lot of times the reason people don't have the right patterns, the right habits is they don't have a preset course. They get up every day in a brand new world and they just go whichever way the wind blows. But see, if you have vision and you have focus, you won't do that. If you have vision, vision means you know where you're headed. Focus means like a laser beam, you're not looking left or right. You are focusing on where you're headed, and now we're on tenacity. That's third base. That we're not going to be dissuaded. We're not going to be talked out of it. If we hit a speed bump, if we have a challenge, if we have a problem, we're going to go right through it, and we're going to come through on the other side. When you do the wrong thing, knowing it is wrong because you do so because you haven't developed the habit of effectively controlling or neutralizing strong inner urges that tempt you, or because you have established the wrong habits and don't know how to eliminate them effectively. It's important to recognize the truth. You always do what you want to do. When you sit down at lunch, you're going to do what you want to do. When you go to work tomorrow, you're going to do what you want to do. At the end of every situation, you are going to do what you want to do. So you have to change what you want. You can't just try and change what you're doing. You've got to change what you want. And you know what? This is some of the greatest tenacity on the planet. That's why I totally don't understand liberals in Washington wanting to control everybody's life. If I can control my life, I am ecstatic. Why anybody wants to control another human being, I totally don't understand. If I can control me, I am thrilled. And this is part of tenacity, to control ourselves, to control our thoughts, to control our desires. Keep in mind that only you have the power to choose for yourself. And decisions without actions are worthless. Tenacity is all about action. Tenacity is applied, persistent, and consistent action. Tenacity is applied, persistent, and consistent action. So direct your thoughts, control your emotions, and you will be able to ordain your destiny. To move to one action, desire must be joined to ambition and initiative. Ambition is not a dirty word. Ambition is a good thing, an initiative. Good decisions must be followed through with action. Without action, a good decision becomes meaningless. For the desire itself can die through lack of an attempt to achieve fulfillment. That's why you should act immediately on a good decision. You ever made a good decision and didn't act on it? Oh, I know, I'm going to buy that stock. And then you wait 6 weeks and you look back, oh yeah, it went up 25% in 6 weeks. It's too late. Or probably too late. See, if you know you're making a good decision, you ever done this? As soon as I get to New Year, I'm gonna go on a diet. No, we never did that. But the point is, if it's a good decision, don't delay. If you decide to start setting aside 10% of your earnings in a retirement account, that's a good decision. Don't delay. Don't say, I'm going to do that in 2005. Good actions must be followed through with, good decisions rather, must be followed through with action. Without action, a good decision becomes meaningless. One of my favorite scriptures has always been Ecclesiastes 11:6. Sow your seed in the morning, and at evening let not your hands be idle, for you do not know which will succeed, whether this or that, or whether both will do equally well. And so you don't just go to the job and that's it. In the first book we ever wrote, Money is Spiritual Force, we talked about income centers. So you don't just have money coming from one direction. The objective is to have money coming from several directions. And that way, even when you're on vacation, you're making money. Because you have money coming in from several directions. The point is, you're not even sure which will really do well, which endeavor is really going to take off. So you don't apply your hands to one thing. You apply your hands to several things, but they all have to be moving you in the same direction.
Amen.
So don't be slack in your work. Be tenacious in every worthy endeavor. Face your fears, and the death of that fear will be certain. Tenacious means cohesive, to not easily be pulled apart, tending to adhere or cling, especially to another substance. Tenacious means a persistence in maintaining or adhering to something valued or habitual. To be tenacious. That is why many persons succeed, because they start for a specific destination and they keep going until they reach it. They simply don't know how to quit. It's hard to stop them. Also, that's why many fail, because they don't overcome inertia. They don't begin. It takes more energy to overcome inertia in getting started from a standstill than to continue the momentum of a moving body when it's once in motion. I don't know if you've ever tried to push a car. You know, when we were young, when we were kids, you move a car, let's say you're working on it, the first 2 or 3 inches is the hard part. But once you get the car rolling a little bit, it's not hard to move a car. So getting moving from a standstill stop, that's the hard thing. But once you're moving, it's not hard to keep the momentum going. So we just have to make up our minds. We have the vision, first base. We're focused. That's the second base. And the third base is we're tenacious. We see where we're going. We're focused. We're not going to be pulled off course. And also, we're not going to quit. We're not going to give up. Say it again. All of us, as believing men, are men of destiny. But I have to see that revelation and act upon that revelation in order for my destiny to come to pass. And finally, home plate is faith. You've got to believe. Well, now wait a minute, Pastor. Why do I have to believe? If I can lift up my eyes, if I have the vision, if I have the focus, if I have the tenacity. And the reason is there will be times in your life when you will have the vision, the focus, and the tenacity, but they will still not be enough to pull you through. Like in 1982 when the doctors told me that my son would die, and then later when they told me that he would be retarded or be a vegetable, or in 1989 when the doctors told me why my wife would die. There comes times in life when you had better have some faith. And I'll tell you what else. In the business world, making investments, whatever it is you want to talk about, faith in God, but I'll tell you what else, faith in yourself. That's why you have to learn to think for yourself, to trust your judgment. To come to a place where you're not always relying on somebody else's judgment. That takes faith in yourself. The same faith that brought you out will be the same faith that will take you home, take you around those bases into home plate, take you on through to home plate. When vision, focus, and tenacity are simply not enough, it will be your faith that will carry you through to home plate, making you a home run man. But nobody's got the right to tell you what your dream ought to be. Nobody's got the right to tell you what your aspirations or your goals ought to be. And don't let people pull you off. If I had $1 for every time somebody spoke a discouraging word to me or tried to pull me off my vision, my course, my destiny, well, we would be able to pay cash for phase 1. There's something about human nature. People don't like you pulling ahead. If everybody's on welfare and you come off, they don't like it. If everybody's in the apartment complex and you're buying your own house, they don't like it. If everybody's driving an American-made car and you buy a European car, they don't like it. And it is a non-stop, forever challenge. That's why we talk in this ministry about breaking out. You got to make up your mind. What is important to you? Making all of your relatives happy, making your friends happy, or making yourself happy? Making your wife happy, making your family happy. See, I don't believe anybody's got the right to come in and say, oh, you ought not have that, you ought not make that much money, you ought not live in this neighborhood. They don't have the right to do that. It's your life. And nobody's in charge of your life except you. And you are here tonight, the sum total of all the decisions you have made up until tonight. You are sitting here tonight. how much money you have, what you drive, where you live, how happy or unhappy your home is. That is the result of all the thoughts that you have allowed to lodge in your mind, and the words that you have spoken, and the actions you have taken. And if you don't believe that, then you are not ready to break out to a new level in your life. But if you, see, it's a men's conference, right? If you will be willing to take individual responsibility for the thoughts that you have had, the actions you have taken, the words you have spoken. If you'll say, yeah, I can't blame the government, I can't blame the Democrats, I can't blame the Republicans, I did it. Well, that opens the door for you to enter tomorrow, Tuesday, with a brand new direction, a brand new vision, a brand new plan. Because it doesn't matter what has happened. It doesn't matter how many mistakes you've made. It doesn't matter the screw-ups that have happened in the past. The only thing that matters is, what are you going to do now? Because you are the master of your destiny. You control. You may not believe it, but you control. You may not control how much money you make next week, but you control how much money you're going to make in the year 2014. You are in control of that. And if you hand it over to the company, then you still were in control, but you handed it over to somebody else. You are in charge of that. You control what you drive, what you wear, where you live. You're in charge of that. And again, you may not be able to change that in a week, a month, a year, and you may not totally get there in a decade, but you can get there if you'll lift up your eyes, if you'll have the vision for it, and if you'll stay focused and not allow people to pull you off course, and if you'll be tenacious when times get tough, because they will be tough at times. Times will be tough at times. And then have faith when all you're hearing is a discouraging word. I have so disciplined myself to discount discouraging words. And I know people use adjectives about me, because I was sitting in the office here not too many weeks ago, and a banker told me, he said, nobody's going to lend you this kind of money. And I said, is that right? And I turned to the controller of the ministry and I said, well, how many letters do you have in your desk offering us that much money? She said, 2. But here's a man saying, ain't nobody gonna lend you that much money. I've learned over time that if they don't tell me what I want to hear, there's no rule in the Bible that says I got to believe it. I'll find a way. Some way, somehow, I'll find a way. And the worst case scenario is I'd have to wait 6 months. The worst case scenario is I'd have to wait 12 months. But you know what? I will not be pulled off course. I will not be dissuaded. I will not be discouraged. I'm still going to get to my destination. And when I get to that destination, people will come from far and wide, and they'll look around in phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and they'll say, oh, what a lucky preacher to pastor a deal like this. But there'll be no luck to it. It'll be vision, it'll be focus, it'll be tenacity, and it'll be faith. Stand up, let's say it again out loud. All of us, as believing men, are men of destiny. But I have to see that revelation and act upon that revelation in order for my destiny to come to pass. Amen. Well, I hope you've enjoyed it. And tomorrow night, Wednesday night, the six-figure man. Tomorrow night, the visions and dreams man. Because really, this is where it all begins, in the visions and the dreams. Seeing it. Because that is the first step.